Okay, do y'all remember when we were doing quadratics and it would give you a problem and you would have to determine if you had the roots or the vertex, and then you would plug stuff in to find A, either using the vertex form or the root form? I'm not really asking you if you remember how to do it. I'm asking you if you just remember doing it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's similar to that, but you have to write either a cubic or a quartic. The good news is there's only like one form of each. When it says write it in polynomial form, we are not writing it in polynomial form, and here's why. Because there's no reason to write it in polynomial form other than to practice multiplying binomials, which at this point you should know how to multiply binomials, and so we're just not going to do it. So you're actually going to leave all of these in factored form, which is easier for you. So because when you write the equation, it will be in factored form. So it's not like I'm telling you to write it in polynomial form and then factor it. It'll already be in factored form when you're done. So you don't have to write it in polynomial form. We're just going to write it in factored. So I'm just going to write, gotta be kidding me. Why is this not, okay. Factored. Okay, so you have to be able to write an equation given a problem like this. If you look at number 2, you have to be able to write an equation given a graph. So we're going to do both. So number 1 says I'm a cubic with a double root at -4 and a root at 0. The point to -36 is on me. Write my function in factored form and sketch me. Okay, so if you have a cubic with a double root, the first thing I'm going to do is just write it in y equals form. We have to find A, just like we did when we were doing the quadratics. So we're going to have y equals A. And I don't know what A is. I have to find it, but that'll be my second step. Okay, so y equals A times, and if I have a double root at -4. Okay, now I want you to think about this. When you're going the other way, when we were solving them, if I had x minus 4 and I solved it, my root was actually at x equals positive 4. Yeah. So if my root is at -4, when I write it inside the parentheses, you're going to put the opposite. So this is actually x plus 4. And there are 2 of them. So you square it. There is a single root at 0. You can write x plus 0 or x minus 0, but what is x plus 0, x minus 0? Yeah. It's just x, right? X plus 0 is x, x minus 0 is x. So you don't have to write the plus 0 minus 0. You can just write times x. And here in a little bit, I'm actually going to move that to the front, just because that's the correct way to write it, but for now we're just going to leave it at the end. Okay, your second step is to actually find A, and you're going to find A by substituting to -36 in for x and y. Okay, so you're going to replace x and y with 2 for x and -36 for y, and you're going to find A. Okay. So -36 equals A times, we had x plus 4, so now we're going to do 2 plus 4 squared. And then we had times x. We're replacing our x's with 2, so times 2. And you're just going to work this out and find A. Two plus 4 is 6. Please make sure to follow order of operations. Parentheses come first, and then exponents, and then multiplication and division. Or, in this case, multiplication. So -36 equals A times 36 times 2. -36 equals When you multiply 36 times 2, you get 72. You can leave it on the right hand side of A, but y'all are used to seeing the number before the letter, so I'm actually going to rewrite it with the 72 in front of A. You can leave it on the other side if you want. It doesn't matter. You're about to divide anyway, so it's going to go away. And then you divide both sides by 72 to find A. So divide by 72, divide by 72. You get A equals negative 36 over 72, which is negative 1/2. Okay, and this is probably one of the problems I saw the most when we were doing this with quadratics. And I don't know how else to say it, or I would say it a different way. So I'm basically just going to say the same thing I said before. When you write your final answer, it will have the letters X and Y in it. So when you did, the only purpose for using 2 negative 36 was to find A. Once you have found A, you no longer are going to use 2 negative 36. Your answer will have the letter Y and the letter X in it. So I'm going to write Y equals, you replace A with the number, which was negative 1/2, and everything else stays the same. I'm going to move the X in front just because that's the correct way to write it, but if you were to leave it exactly the way we have it written here, down here, the X plus 4 squared times X with the negative 1/2, that would be absolutely correct. Okay, it's fine. It bothers me to have that X out there at the end. So I'm going to put it here. And then I'm going to put X plus 4 squared right next to it. This is my equation. Okay. The second part of this is it wants you to sketch the graph. It tells you where your roots are, and I've already told you that that's the only part that absolutely has to be correct. So this should not be extremely difficult. It tells you that there is a double root at negative 4 and a root at 0. You don't have to do any math. It already told you that. So you come over here and you draw your little hash marks, and you put a point at negative 4. And you put a point at 0. That's the part you have to get right to get full credit. If you have the equation and these 2 points graphed correctly, then you get full credit. Now the rest of it is a little bit of extra credit. A is negative, which means instead of starting at negative infinity and going to positive infinity, I'm going to go the other way around, right? I'm going to start at positive infinity. This is your double root. This is the one it touches but does not pass through. This is your single root. It goes right through it. So you start up here in positive infinity, come down, touch, go back up, and come down. Alright, number 2. It gives you the graph, and it says it passes through the point negative 112, write in polynomial form. Again, we are only going to be writing in factored form. For those of you who are curious, polynomial form would have been multiplying this out. X plus 4 times X plus 4, and then distributing the negative 1/2 X. It's just a lot of work. I don't know what the purpose of it is other than practicing the multiplication. So. Okay, so here we go. We have a cubic here. How do I know it's a cubic? Because my end behavior is going in 2 separate directions. Okay, I look at the graph. I have a root at negative 4. I have a root at negative 3. And I have a root at 1. Everybody agree with that? Do I have any double roots or triple roots? No. How do I know that? Yeah. it doesn't, it goes through every single point and it does not do the change in concavity thing. That's one way of telling it. The other way is this is a cubic, and I know because the ends are going in opposite directions, and I have 3 roots, and that's the maximum I can have. I can't have any more than 3. Okay, so you're going to do y equals. I don't know what a is, so I'm going to put an a here. Don't forget about the a. And then you're going to write your roots. I have x plus 4. I have x plus 3. And I have x minus 1. Does anyone have any questions about that step? What comes next? Yeah, you're going to plug in the x and y, which are -1, 12. So you're going to substitute -1, 12 for x and y to find a. So you replace your y with 12. I don't know what a is, so it has to stay a. You replace your x with -1 all the way through. Oops. And then you just work it out, solve for a. When you're finished solving for a, you should get that a is equal to -1, which it's good that it's negative because this one started at positive infinity and went to negative infinity, and that is true for ones that have a negative sign in the front. And so now you're going to replace a. You can either just put a negative or you can write -1, but they're the same thing. So I'm just going to put a negative sign, and then you rewrite everything else that you had written up here. X plus 4, x plus 3, x minus 1. Okay. Number 3. It passes through -2, -24, right in factored form. Okay. Roots. Let's look at this. What do we have here? How many single roots, double roots, triple roots?
2 singles and double.
Yeah, we got 2 singles, single right here, 1 double. It is a quartic, which you should be able to tell by the fact that the end behavior is going in the same direction. For these, it's either going to be a cubic or a quartic. Okay, so I have a single root at -3 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and write a single in front of this. And I have a double root at 2. So we got y equals a. Times. And it doesn't matter which one you put first. pick any of them. I'm just going to start with the first one you have up here. X plus 3 times x minus 4 times x minus 2 squared. Replace your x and y with the point they give you and find a. I'm going to give you just a couple minutes, see if you can work that out. So your answer here, you should get 1/4 for A. So when you write your answer, remember it has the letters x and y in it. So y equals 1/4 times x plus 3 times x minus 4 times x minus 2 squared. Alright, one more. We're about to run out of time, so
Is that the answer?
yes, this is the answer. You're done. Right, the very last one, you have a, what is this? Yeah, the whole thing is a quartic, and this root is what? Yeah, this is a triple root, because it goes through it, but see how it changes concavity? This one is a single root. So you have a triple root at -4, and you have a single root at 1. So first thing you're going to do is write it with the letters y, a, and x. So y equals a times x plus 4 cubed times x minus 1. Replace your x and y with -1 and -162. And then solve for A. Okay, you should get a equals 3. So when you substitute it back in, your answer becomes y equals 3 times x plus 4 cubed times x minus 1. As far as the paper I gave you goes, it is due at the end of class tomorrow. You do not have to do number 10. Also, the answers are on the back. They're not in order. The problem with the answer key is this. I have told you you do not have to write it in polynomial form. You can just write it in factored form, but the answers on the back are in polynomial form. So you may get something that does not match the answer key. But at the end of class tomorrow, this should be done. Y'all have a fantastic day. Happy Monday.